Well, good morning, everyone. Very excited to be here today with a very lovely lady, Raheela Ahmed. Raheela is a lifelong Prince Georgian, graduate of the University of Maryland, a grassroots community advocate, and a servant leader. She is the elected representative of the Prince George's County Board of Education for District 5, representing over 80,000 residents, and she currently serves as Deputy Director of the Campus Vote Project, which is a nonprofit that focuses on institutionalizing voting and civic engagement at college campuses across the country. Wow, is that timely? She is running for the Maryland State Senate for District 23, which is the area of Bowie and down to Upper Marlboro, like that little apostrophe district. And she's going to be speaking to us today about lessons learned from issues that took place on the county school board and things that we need to understand about the remedial efforts that have been going on and to what degree those actually answer or solve some of the issues. So did I pronounce your name right, Raheela?
Raheela, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Raheela, why don't you tell us about this?
Thank you, Kate. Okay, y'all, we're going to start almost a decade ago. We're going to start back in 2013. That was really a pivot point for the school district and the school board in Prince George's County, because at that time in 2013, our state legislators and our then county executive, Rusher and Baker, came together to pass a last minute bill that not only altered the structure of the school board, but also changed systems of checks and balances on the board and within the system as well, in a way that we haven't seen ever in the state, and in a way that has really stripped the board of its powers of oversight. So in 2013, what happened is that a bill passed. It was named HB 1107. And that bill essentially changed the structure of the school board from an all-elected board, which advocates had been fighting to have for years previous to that, changed it from an all-elected board to a hybrid board, which basically allowed the county executive to appoint 3 people to the Board of Education. One of those 3 were appointed or would be appointed as the chair of the board, allow the county executive to appoint the vice chair amongst elected members, allowed the county executive to appoint the superintendent of schools, allowed the county executive to appoint, in the case of vacancies of elected members, and also allowed a lot of powers to the superintendent. So the superintendent, if there was anything that the board members wanted to do that was against the recommendation, or it says action, but it's been applied as recommendation. If the body wanted to do anything that's against the action or recommendation of the superintendent, they would need a supermajority vote. And again, with the appointments of board leadership, that basically took away the ability of the board to select its own leader and have buy-in in that process. It also gave the superintendent authority to select their own cabinet members without going through board approval, and also allow the superintendent to close schools without a board vote. Those are just a couple of different elements of what that bill allowed for. And it again passed as a last minute measure in 2013 by the state legislature and also the county executive at that time. Now that happened back in 2013. Between 2013,
sorry, was that only for Prince George's, or was
only
that for
for
all
Prince
counties?
George's? Only for Prince George's County did this happen. And I think what they have claimed, or what folks have said, is the pivot point for that is because they recognized that they wanted more expertise on the board, and they felt that appointed members would be able to fill that gap. What has happened is not necessarily the most positive thing for our county and our education system. because what this has created is more of an autocracy as opposed to a democracy. We've diluted the votes of in the voices of several hundreds of thousands of members of our community, in that they voted for elected members, but now those elected members don't necessarily have all of the authorities and powers that should be provided to them had this law not passed. And so we've gotten into kind of this situation now. In 2013, this happened. Over the course of the next almost 10 years, the changes that have occurred is that several people have run for school board in different cycles, that have gone out, that have campaigned, that have worked and won elections because of the support of people, to the point where in 2020, the majority of full voting members were all elected members that had very like progressive ideals and mindsets and innovative ideas for what they wanted to accomplish on the school board. I was one of those folks as well. But the issue is because of the lack of checks and balances created by the system, and the lack in buy-in for leadership on both the superintendency and the Board of Education, there was a lot of disputes and challenges around what was being passed by the body. And so even though something was duly passed with a majority vote, there would be a question of, oh, does this need a supermajority vote? Or there would be a question of, oh, this seems like it's not, according to policy. So I don't know if I should sign that contract that you all passed 3 times, right? So those are the kind of issues that we've faced since then. And the issue is that there was only one delegate that was really bold enough to propose a full repeal of this law. And there was no traction, no senator that was willing, able, or had done it in our county delegation. Now, 2022, we've come to this point. We've had a new board chair for over a year now. And having that new board chair has presented its own issues, where there have been a record number of accusations going back and forth between board members, between the folks that are supposed to be leading our system, to the point where the legislators decided, okay, now it's time to take action. So what they've done is that they have passed a measure that would allow the board to select its own board chair and vice chair. That'll start in December. And also allow for, in 2024, for the board to go back to a fully elected board. So those are 2 good measures that have passed. But if you look at it, there's still a whole lot that needs to be corrected in order to be a proper governance system. The superintendent is still appointed. Vacancies, the county executive will still be appointing vacancies in elected positions. Those are still issues, and supermajority vote still stands. Those are still issues that will persist post-December, post-2024. And so, and the other piece of it too is, at this point in time, the county executive, because myself and 2 of my colleagues have resigned from the board in order to run for higher office, which, by the way, is state law only for Prince George's County School Board. Another thing. Because of that, the county executive will now have the power to appoint those folks in elected vacancies. So come December, half of the board will be appointed at some point would have been or will be appointed by the county executive. So when you come to a vote in December for the board chair and vice chair, you can imagine that the full voting majority of the board, which is appointed, would have some control over that matter. And then, like I said before, even past 2024, the county executive will still appoint the superintendent and board members. And that is very unusual for a school board, not only in the state, but also in the country, because hiring the superintendent is a key function and role of a school board nationally. And so these are kinds of the types of changes that have been passed. I want to speak as well about some of the ramifications of having this type of a system. One of the ramifications.
I want to break this into 2 interviews because it's so perfect and it's so great and we need to explore it more. Okay.
Okay,
So
that's
I'm going to
totally
stop
okay.
the recording and then we'll